Let's roll the dice.
A 3.
All right. Let's see if I can do worse than that.
10. You're up next.
Okay. This is my number 4. It's my 2-player pick. A new and improved version of my wife's favorite, actually my favorite 2-player game. Both of our favorite 2-player game. It's ranked 19. Theme and the core mechanics have changed and improved significantly. A unique card drafting, engine building mechanic remains the same. This is Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth.
Oh, yeah.
Have you played Seven Wonders Duel?
I have, yeah. So I've been looking at this one. I was curious about it.
I've got Seven Wonders Duel. I've got Splendor Duel too, just because that's also a good game. So Seven Wonders Duel. This is ranked 19 on BoardGameGeek. This is the one that just came out. This came out 2024, and it's ranked 191 right now and climbing. I think this is a better game. Not just the IP. I like Lord of the Rings, but even without Lord of the Rings, if this was just a new and improved version of this, this is a better game. But with the Lord of the Rings IP, it works. A lot of the games we have this thing in it where you have to count all your points at the end. You don't know who's winning until you count up all the points at the end. And that's not one of my favorite things in games, and this gets rid of it. And Seven Wonders Duel, which is my favorite and my wife's favorite 2-player game, at the end of it, you got to count up all your points to see who wins. This gets rid of that. You're not counting up points at the end. You know who wins when that last card is drawn. Either one person's going to win, you're going to get a victory condition while the game is being played, or at the very end, the way you know who wins is on the map. So there's a map of Middle-earth, and it's area control, and there's towers that you can put out that count as presence there, and there's troops that you can put out that count as presence. So if you have a tower or a troop, that counts as presence. If you have more presence on Middle-earth than your opponent when the last card of the game is drawn, then you win. If your opponent has more, then they win. If it's tied, then you tie and you shake hands, and that's it. But there's other ways to win. There's this track. You have Sauron is chasing the Fellowship of the Ring. You're trying to get the ring to Mordor. So one of us is going to play Sauron. One of us is going to play Frodo. You're trying to get the ring to Mordor. If you get to Mount Doom before the ring wraith catches you, then you throw the ring in and you win. So you can win along that track. And the way you go along that track is by getting the blue cards. The blue cards give you a ring. And the ring means you get to move that track up one. And then as you're going up that track, sometimes you'll get little benefits. This game is very well balanced. It's pretty interesting because it feels asymmetric, but it's extremely well balanced. Playing Frodo versus playing Sauron, it's 50-50. It's a toss-up. It's not like one side has some advantage over the other.
But it feels different, too.
But it feels different. Nice. It feels like it's asymmetric just because of how well they did the theme. You can build, instead of building wonders, you're building castles. And when you build your castle, you can put a tower on Middle-earth, and then it gives you some other benefits as well. Instead of the science cards have turned into helping the races. So there's like the elves and the dwarves. If you get 6 different races, then you get a science victory, basically. You get that, helping the races victory. So that's very similar. Economy cards have gotten easier. The guild cards are completely gone. And those were like probably the most confusing of all of the cards. Trying to think about how many points is this going to get me, how much, this end game point strategy, that's all gone. Streamlined, easier to get to the table, easier to understand. You're rallying the support of the 6 races. That's one way to get victory. You complete the quest of the One Ring. That's the other way. Or if you conquer all 7 regions of Middle-earth, which I think that'd be pretty hard to do, because if you notice, someone going for that, I don't think that's gonna happen. But I can see most of the games of this, you're probably going to be able to prevent all of those quick victories. You see somebody going for the 6 races, you're not going to let them get that 6th one. You're going to stop them from that. If you get 2 races that are the same, then you get to pick these tokens up here at the top. And if you get one of those tokens is a 7th race. So that'll count as one of your 6.
Gotcha. But for the most part, you see what's happening. Like I remember, Seven Wonders Duel. Like you see what cards the other person's taking. It's pretty transparent there.
So if you like Seven Wonders Duel and you want a better version of it, this is a better version. It's more fun. It's easier to see. When the game's over, you already know who won. You don't have to sit there and count points.
Well, and I noticed a theme. Like when you say your wife likes it, that definitely
Oh
kicks it up to
yeah,
another level.
way up there because I got somebody to play with.
That's right. I know that works.
That's huge.
If somebody in my immediate family, my wife or my kids like a game, puts it to the top of the list for sure. My number 4, an Alexander Pfister game. He's also made
Great Western Trail.
Great Western Trail.
Okay.
Boon Lake. Boon Lake is ranked 458 on BoardGameGeek. Its average rating is 7.6. 1 to 4 players. So again, this one works. The solitaire mode works pretty smooth. Very, very nice if you want to play it that way. The weight is 3.8, so it is a little on the heavier side. Not the heaviest one on my list. I really like this. I actually like this better than Great Western Trail myself. Flowing down a river, you go back up to the top, you flow down the river again. It's a Western theme, but it has a little bit of a sci-fi feel. Like if you look at the cards closer, you'll see that there's like, you know, some steampunk kind of elements to it, even though it's got a Western theme.
It's got little canoes.
And little canoes and stuff like that.
I'm sold on the canoes, man. That's pretty cool.
What's nice about it is it manages a lot of complicated things with the board. You have pieces that you take off and you put on the board and open things up. You see a lot of this type of thing in the Stonemaier games. They've really perfected the idea of doing a lot of the fiddly management on board spaces. This does some of the similar things. But when you play it another couple of times, you start realizing that there's some interplay between the cards that you play. So you develop resources to play cards that'll give you points or gives you more income. You also build these like little levers which give you like special actions you can do. You pull the lever, you get to do a special action that gives you something. At the end of the game, you'll also get points based on how many levers you have. You're putting little buildings out on the board.
It says explore landscapes, build houses and settlements, raise cattle, produce raw materials.
What don't you do?
Develop your infrastructure.
Yeah. What
and
don't
then
you do?
Do your best to automate these processes. So is this engine building?
It's an engine building game.
Civilization building type.
But you do have a map that you're putting things on, and you get points based on what's next to your map and things like that. I think what I just like about this game is it's a very satisfying engine building game. Every time I played it, the time just shoots past. I've always thought it was fun, but then once I really got a feel for how the game worked, it was just very satisfying. It flows smoothly. If you've played it once and you kind of just moved on, come back to it. There was an expansion that came up actually that added these artifacts. I've played the expansion, add some really cool pieces to it without making it complicated, which is what I love about an expansion. Boon Lake, great game, highly recommend it. If you let it fall off your radar, put it back on.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds like a good one.
Yeah.
3.
Number 3.
Top 3. All right, so these are going to be the best of the best. Let's roll the dice.
All right.
See what we get. 7. That's a lucky number. Let's see how lucky it is.
17.
All
right. I get to go next.
You win that one.
So, this is another game from a well-known designer that may just fall off your radar because the theme seemed a little funky. Like, you look at this box, and if you were familiar with Stefan Feld, if you looked at this box, you would have no idea this is a Stefan Feld game because most of his games are like, you know, Euro type games, point salad Euro type games. You look at this and you're thinking, my goodness, what is this? Some strange sci-fi lady with no eyeballs. It looks a little strange, but it is a really satisfying action selection game. So you have worker placement games, right? Where you put your worker out on the board and then it gives you an action. This flips it around. You instead collect little small tiles, and the tiles give you actions. And you can collect multiple tiles of the same type of action and cash them in to do a more powerful move, or sometimes as you get later in the game you need to use more tiles to take a certain move. I really love how it's a matter of you collect tiles, Bonfire, and turn them in to take the actions as opposed to putting a worker out there. So it has that worker placement feel, but it gives you opportunity to accrue some of these tiles to take more powerful actions. The other thing that's neat about it, so this is a game where you're kind of building things out on a board. So you're moving boats around on a map and collecting tiles that create like goals. Like if you can fulfill the condition of the goal, you flip it over and you light a bonfire. Collecting 3 pathways of a certain color or collecting certain types of things, you fulfill that condition, you get to flip it over and it gives you endpoint goals. So you do things like that. But you're also collecting things that allow you to create pathways, and you collect these like little elder people that walk along on the pathways and whatnot. So it gives you some things to do that are very clear. You're gnomes.
You are a group of gnomes.
So there's actually a really convoluted story with it. The artist with the game actually wrote like a book telling you the lore all behind it. So there's actually some interesting story behind it if you want to read it. What I like about this, and is what initially frustrated me the first couple of times, I want to complete everything. Like in this game, you're going to create a pathway, and you're going to light these bonfires, and then if you get the expansion, you're going to plant these trees. So you see all these things, and in your mind you think, I want to build a complete pathway. I want to get all those people out there. Your thought is that the end state condition must be to complete the whole picture here. But no. Actually, the end will be triggered before that happens. It's impossible to complete everything in the game. And so initially that made me a little frustrated because I'm like, oh, I want to complete these pathways. I have a couple of holes on the board I didn't fill in. But actually, I think that's what I like about this game, is it leaves you wanting more. You're not able to finish everything. So you know how some games, you hit an end state and you feel like you're just treading water the last couple of turns and you're waiting for the game to be over. This game leaves you wanting more the entire time.
So you wish you had one more turn to finish.
Yes.
To finish your path.
You're like, and it rewards you. Like if you do complete a pathway, you get some bonus points. So, you know, you can watch what other people are doing, and sometimes you can compete to light more bonfires than they are so that you can get the points for that. Because there's rewards for doing things first. Like any Stefan Feld game, if you're familiar with it, there's points for just about every action you can do. So pay attention to what other people are doing. That's some cool interactivity, because if I can be the first to do a certain thing before you do, I'll get points for it. So what you're focusing in on might kind of help me decide on what I'm going to focus it on. So it's a game that gives you just so many different pathways you can go down to try and get points. And again, it just leaves you feeling like you just want to put it out on the table and play it again. I overlooked this game. I found myself looking at it and thinking, I like Stefan Feld's games. I love all of his games that I've played so far. But I find myself looking at the theme and being like, it just didn't, I don't know. It kind of turned me off. I am so glad that I went out and I picked it up nonetheless and played it. I think I picked this up because it has a dent in it. It's one of those things where it had a discount because I had a dent on it, so I bought it.
Off.
Exactly. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll give it a shot. And I'm so glad I did. Bonfire, excellent game. Get it to the table and...
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right, my number 3. This is my asymmetric pick. This is my new favorite 2-player game. We're going to find out who had the lowest ranked game here in just a second. This is based on a popular documentary. I watched a video from the guy that designed this game. He was talking about what influenced him, and it was the documentary My Octopus Teacher.
Okay.
This game is called Kelp, Shark versus Octopus. The artwork is amazing. I backed this. I liked this game so much that after I played it, I bought another copy because I knew this was such a good game. I didn't want the game to run out. I didn't want the game to run out before I could buy another copy, so I could have it as a gift for whatever. Nice. I'm so excited about this game. You know that I like Seven Wonders Duel, and that you know now that I like Lord of the Rings Duel is better than Seven Wonders Duel, and now I'm telling you that this is a better 2-player game than either one of those.
Wow. Yeah.
It's ranked 2,620. Right now. So it's
you win.
It's way up there. But this game, it's got a little bit of everything, and it is so asymmetrical. You're playing either as the octopus or the shark. And if you're the shark, you have a bag building mechanism, and you're just trying to find the octopus and eat him. If you're the octopus, you have a tile hidden movement mechanism and a card drafting deck building mechanism.
Oh, wow.
And so it's 2 completely asymmetric ideas. And my wife, her favorite sea animal is the octopus, and I thought for sure she was going to want to be the octopus, and we sat down and we played it, and she said she wanted to be the shark. And I was like, are you kidding? Like, well, I thought you were going to be the octopus. But that's okay because I liked being the octopus. Yeah. If you're the type of person that likes to roll dice, then you want to be the shark. If you want to be the hunter, and that's what my wife wanted to be, she's like, I want to hunt. I want to be the one that's hunting. You know, I don't want to be the prey. I want to be the hunter.
The hunter.
So she wanted to be the shark, and you're going around the board, and the tiles are face up. So it's kind of like Stratego, where the tiles are only facing you. The other person can't see the tiles. But then, as the octopus player, you got some tricks up your sleeves. You have some cards that allow you to take a couple of the tiles and shuffle them up in a bag and then put them back out randomly. You don't know which spot they're going to go to. The shark player doesn't know. So if you ever have to reveal your tiles, and so now the shark knows where the octopus is, you got a trick up your sleeve. You can use one of those cards. You can put those in the bag and you can shuffle them up and put them back out there. But it's only 1 or 2 or 3. I think there's one card that lets you do 3 of them. It still behooves you to not turn over very many of your tiles to show the shark, but that's what you have to do in order to use your ability. So you have these cards. In order to use one of your abilities on your cards, you have to flip over 1 or 2 of your tiles to show the shark as payment in order to do your ability. Now, in order to win as the octopus, you have to eat 4 food. So there's 4 food tiles that aren't even on the board in the beginning, and you have to use cards to get those tiles on the board to begin with. You switch them out with the little clamshells. The shark strikes is kind of like Stratego, where you strike. Is this an octopus or is it a clam? And you flip it over. It's the clam. No go. If it's the octopus, it doesn't mean death right away, because then there's another mechanism where you've got these conflict cards. I've got 3, the shark's got 3. You pick a card, and if they match, the shark wins and eats you, and game over, you're dead. Right?
All right.
But it's still a chance. It's a 1 in 3 chance. So if you know what the shark's probably going to do, you can try and fake them out. Hopefully, you can last a little bit longer, but then that card goes away. So if you survive, your surviving card, that card goes away, and now it's 2 cards on 2 cards.
So you're tired,
and
it's really hard to get away.
If they try to strike you again and you get away again, then it's 1 to 1, and it's guaranteed the next time you get a strike from the shark, you're going to die. Now, the shark, as he's moving around the game, he's got these tiles that he can improve his ability. So the shark can get stronger and stronger and better abilities as he goes through the game. You get more dice that you can add to your bag. You've got blue dice that let you move around the game. You've got yellow dice that let you search without it being a strike. Because if you use a red dice, that goes up on your hunger track. Your hunger track goes higher and higher. And also when you're upgrading your cards, that makes your hunger track go up. And if your hunger track goes up to the maximum, then you're too hungry and you die as the shark, and the octopus wins.
Yeah.
Multiple paths to victory for both players.
Nice.
It's just an excellent game. First off, if you're going to pick up this game, there's a little mini expansion called the Brilliant Adventures or something similar to that. That's well worth it. It has really cool mechanics. It comes with these other extra dice that you can add to the shark player, where one of the dice is kind of tie-dye blue and red, and you can use that as a blue or red dice. Your choice. Okay. There's one that's like blue and yellow, and then there's one that's yellow and red. And each one of those, so it adds 3 new dice into the mix to help the shark. So I think there's 4 different mechanic additions, little expansions that can help the shark, and then there's 4 different little mini expansions that can help the octopus. And you can choose which ones you want to add. You can say, okay, each one of us, let's pick a random one. And
forces you to do different strategies. Like you can't just do the same thing.
Right. Like there's one where the octopus put something on top of his tile to hide it, or inside of a coconut or something like that. There's one where you can place some little sea urchins out that make it difficult for the shark to swim over that area, unless it rolls like a high number, like a 6 for a movement die. Yeah. So there's different things that you can use. If you're a thinky person, you like chess, you like figuring out tricky strategies and really puzzly things, then you want to play the octopus. That's going to be the most fun way for you. If you just want to attack, roll dice and hope you get the dice that you need, and do some dice bag building, there's still some thinking in there. There's some cool upgrades that you can use, and you have to be careful with how you use your dice, or else you're going to go up on that hunger track too fast. So there's dice management, bag management. So it's definitely thinking on both sides. I feel like there's a slight edge to the shark, but that can be mitigated if you use the expansion. If you find the sharks winning too much, then just let the octopus player have one of those expansions that gives them a little extra help. So I would definitely recommend, if you like this game, if it sounds like something you're going to like, go ahead, get the expansion for it. Well worth it. Really fun game.
Very cool.
That's my number 3, and as far as 2-player games, number 1 favorite 2-player game of all time.
2.
Number 2.
Number 2. I'll roll the dice. Number 1, critical fail.
All right, let's see. 4. Not much better.
Well,
My number 2 pick is my solo game pick. This is a one-player only game. The main character is you're playing in like a horror trope.
I know
like this some old B horror movie flicks. It took me a minute to get past the reservations. I've heard of this game for a long time, and just playing as like a female weak character just did not appeal to me. Of like I don't want to play as that character. Like
but
why?
It's a final girl. They're the tough one of the movie.
Got this game for my wife, and she loves it, and I played it, and I love it, and it's a fun game. Final Girl came out in 2021, and it's got multiple replayability options for this game because you have the core box that you buy, and then you buy a movie flick to go with it. So you can like a VHS tape, and then you can buy. There's probably 10 or 12 different movies that you can buy at this time, and it's a different location with a different monster with a couple different heroes that you can add those heroes to your core set, and then you can go back and you can play different movies with different heroes, or you can change the location, take this monster and see if this monster plays differently in this location. So one of the locations is this butcher, Hans the Butcher, and he's got this pig mask on, and he's going around just chopping people up, and you got to try and go around the map, and you save the victims and get them out of the map. That increases your abilities of your final girl and makes her more powerful. If the killer kills those victims before you get to them, that increases his ability, the horror track goes up, and he gets more and more powerful. So it's a race to get to the victims, because the faster you get the victims, the more powerful you get. The faster he gets the victims, the more powerful he gets. You could just try to go kill him right away, but you're probably not going to kill him unless you have time to go search for items, find a weapon. So it's going to take time to get strong enough to kill this guy to begin with. So I think the best strategy is first, get the victims before he does. Second, find a good weapon, and then go try to kill him. And then this also has a easy mode and a hard mode. So the original mode is kind of an easy mode. If you find that you're winning too easily on that, you can flip it over, and now you're playing on hard mode. So that's a great way to make it a little bit more difficult for you. And when you win with your character the first time, you get this little card that will have a new ability, and now you've got this new weapon or this new item that you can use that's just for your character that you can shuffle in. Anytime you use that character, that can be shuffled into the item deck. That gives them a really, really neat, very neat game. It's ranked 111 on BoardGameGeek. It's rated 8.3, one player only, medium weight, 2.72. Really excited about it. Currently my #1 solo game.
Well named too. I realized I spoiled it describing the character.
The final girl,
The final girl. I was like, oh yeah, that's the name of the...
That's the name of it. I thought you were calling it out. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's just we're calling it. I mean, the final girl of the movie. The final girl at the end kills Freddy Krueger, kills Jason. Right? But final girl's just on a whole nother level. So I'm glad to hear you're really liking it. Sounds like a really good one.
Each one comes with 2 heroes and a new location and a new monster. And one of the monsters, I think, is like the Aliens franchise idea. You know, you're on a spaceship, and there's an alien, going around killing everybody.
How often do you win? I mean, that's always the sign of a good solitaire game. Like you don't want to be winning more than 30% of the time, otherwise it
30.
Oh yeah.
You don't want to win more than 30% of the time.
I
want to win at least 50%
at least 50,
of the time.
right.
Yeah, I like 50.
I like a good, hard, difficult puzzle.
So I won each time I've played this, and my wife won, but we played on the easy mode. So we haven't tried the hard mode yet. And I feel like even on the easy mode, even though we won, it didn't feel easy.
Okay, that's good.
It felt like I was kind of I didn't think I was gonna win.
Okay.
And then I did end up winning. And
it's
the same thing that happened for them too. And there's dice rolls, and there's dice mitigation. There's cards that you can flip over that help your dice mitigation strategy. And I think that's the best strategy of the game, is just, basically staying low on the horror track is the key. One other thing to mention is if you are going to try this game, this is the easiest one to start off with. So core box, and then get the Hans the Butcher, and then there's other ones are more difficult. So the difficulty level increases.
Just a core box, right? If you buy the core box,
you got to have a core box. Yeah, this is like your VHS player, and you need a movie to put in it.
There you go. So, all right, very good. Nice. All right, well, my #2, Anno 1800.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yes. Based on the computer game, which, by the way, Anno 1800 is an amazing game.
So why not just play the computer game? I always ask that, by the way, because
totally.
that's one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of Gloomhaven and Frosthaven is because they take so much time to set up, that it takes so much time to go through the entire campaign and play. I don't even have enough time in my life to play a video game, let alone take a video game and make it take 10 times longer to get through.
Yeah, because this game thematically is similar, the art is similar, but it's a different game. You're trying to make your people happy. You'll get peasants, farmers, inventors, different groups of people, and they'll have needs. Like they want sausage, they want soap, they want whiskey. And so you have to build up an engine to create the things that people want to satisfy them, make them happy. And so you have this deck of cards that represents your people. And once you've satisfied them, you've given them the goods that you want, you play the card, and it'll give you some special income or action. Then you flip it over. At the end of the game, it gets you points. So what you're trying to do is you're building an engine of different items that you're building. So in the center of the board, there is a bunch of tiles. And what you do on your turn is you try and earn those tiles. So you can build a coal factory and you put it on your little island and you put it in a little spot. And then you use it by putting people in that coal factory or the bricklayer or something like that allow you to build other things, or it'll allow you to satisfy people. And so what you're doing is you're building up this engine and you maybe actually recruiting new people that will give you points at the end of the game. But the game end triggers once somebody who's playing has gotten rid of their deck of cards. Once they've made everybody happy, you go around the table and you finish the game. And so it creates this interesting mechanic where you kind of trying to balance, like, am I greedy or am I trying to finish things? Am I going to try and get more people because I might theoretically get more points? Or do I get the feeling that we're at end game and Alex over there,
if you feel like you've got the most points right now, then you would want to end it.
Shed your deck as quickly as you can.
Okay.
Or maybe I'm watching and I'm seeing your shed in your deck and I'm thinking, oh man, I need to get more points. And so then I might play a little more aggressively.
Okay.
So the pacing of the game kind of depends on what's going on around the board. So it's a really fun game. But here's one of the things I found. There's a couple of pieces where I was like, oh, there's some very clear strategies that seem to be working. So this is another game that does have an expansion that I think hugely improves the game. So if you've ever played this before, if you haven't played it, play it. Even the base game is a real treat. It's a lot of fun. You're moving cubes onto a board, collecting tiles, moving things around. It's just engaging. But if you're up for it, buy the expansion. But the tricky thing about it is that the expansion is released in Germany, not in the United States. So you do have to import it.
So you have to learn German first.
You have to learn German. The nice thing is the tiles, it's language neutral. Ranked 288 on BoardGameGeek, and it's given a 7.7. I think that's about accurate. Like a 7.78 is what I would give it. But with the expansion, it gets up to 9. If you play the game multiple times, you'll see a couple of holes here and there. The expansion plugs in those holes and just makes the game work real smooth. It's fairly language neutral, so importing it from Germany, it's a hassle to do that for sure. And I really hope Cosmos Games sometime release an English version, please. But even if they don't ever do that, once you've got the game in your hands, expansion, it's well worth it. I love it. I can always be convinced to sit down and play it. I love sharing this with people. This is one I prefer playing with other people because you just are interacting with other people. What they do is impacting things. You trade with other people. You build brick factory rather than building my own brick factory. Maybe I'll trade with you. Gives you some extra gold that you can use to take extra actions. It allows me to be more efficient with my turn. Just a lot of fun. Highly recommend it. Martin Wallace is a designer, great game designer. So
very cool.
Yeah, very good.
All right, now we're down to number 1. Before we get to number 1, I wanted to go through some honorable mentions. Let's do, you got your list of honorable mentions?
Yeah.
How many you got on your list?
7. Actually.
7?
Yep.
I think I've got like 10 or 11 on my list. So it was really hard. It was really hard for me to narrow this down. I thought it was going to be easier, and I ended up, I started my initial list and I had like 25 or 30 games on it, and it was hard to narrow that down to 10. Any of the games that I have on my honorable mentions list, they could easily be interchanged with some of the games that I had on my top 10, but I just went through each one and I was like, which one would I rather play? This one or this one? So anyway, these honorable mentions are still all really good games. Let's roll and see who's going to talk about their honorable mentions first. I got a 3.
All right.
And we'll try and rapid fire through these real quick. We won't talk about them as much. That way we can get to our number 1.
So my first one I already hinted at. I am a huge fan of Architects of the West Kingdom, Paladins of the West Kingdom. Those are still in the top 100. But there's other games made by the same designer. Shem Phillips, amazing designer. Love what he puts out. The reason why I didn't put on the list is because there's a lot of attention already.
So what are the other ones that would have
So
been?
the ones that I would really put on, Adventures of the South Tigers just came out. I've played it.
Okay.
It is an amazing game. It is extremely complicated. It is heavy. It is deep. It's going to make your brain burn. Steam is going to pop out of your ears as you're playing it.
I love it. I love
But
those games.
it's got depth to it that I feel like is going to give it legs. So it's like disappear down at the bottom of the list because it's a new game. It hasn't gained momentum yet. But I think it's going to shoot up closer to the list. I like it a lot. But the whole South Tigris series of games is great. So I want to call out all those. Heroes of Air, Land, and Sea is a great...
that was so fun to play. I'm so glad you showed me that game.
Yeah, it's a 4X game, kind of compressed in. It's fun because you're building like little castles on the map. It's great. You liked it as well. It's a lot of fun.
Excellent.
Another one is an old one. Modern Art is been around for a while by Rainer Knizia. Definitely worth your attention. If you like bidding auction
That's the
games,
auction bidding one. Yeah, I've looked it up. I've never played it.
It is the best example of a pure auction game, and it works really smoothly. So if you're interested in that type of game. Lacrimosa is a newer game. Really like that one as well. Shares some in common with my number one game, so I'm not going to give that part away. But it's a fun game, worth a look. Lewis and Clark is another one that used to be in the top 100. It's dropped down a bit, but it's a fun game. With games like Dune Imperium being a very popular game right now, Lewis and Clark is another game that had more of an card and action selection component to it that kind of predates Dune Imperium, but it scratches some of that similar itch and is definitely a game worth looking at. And then finally, Newton is a solitaire game. Actually, I played as a solitaire game, but you can play with up to 4 players. But Newton is another game that you should put on your list, especially if you play solitaire games. Really worth.
What's that one about?
Newton is where you are professors, inventing things and going on lectures, researching. What you do is you play a card and it allows you to take an action on a couple of boards. You move up on tracks, you move things around, and then you power up. You tuck the card underneath your map so that particular action is more powerful later on. Really fun game. Last one, honorable mention, would be Alma Mater, which is another game where you're playing professors, deans making schools. It's another one that I've seen on sale quite a bit. Picked up once because it was less expensive. Love it. It's a really good game. Makes a really interesting economy. And one of those games that I think people sometimes overlook. So give it a shot if you happen to see it for a good price. It's worth checking out.
All right, good deal. Okay, my honorable mentions. I'm just gonna try to rapid fire as quick as I can through these so we can get to our number one.
Sure. Yeah.
So these are in no particular order. All excellent games. They're all above the BGG Top 100. They just didn't make the cut for my top 10. First is Endeavor Deep Sea. This one just came out this year. It's 2024. It's got a rating of 8.3. It's ranked 699. But its predecessor, which was Endeavor Age of Sail, is currently ranked 176. So, and this is the new and improved version of the game where you're going deep down into the water. You've got some submarines and you're trying to get the most points, victory points at the end of the game by going around and exploring the ocean and doing good things to help clean up the ocean and do research. And it's got some pretty cool mechanisms. You get to get new crew that will pilot your submarines. You've got your leader, and then you can pick new tiles of people that will allow you to do more things in the game, more actions, action selection mechanic. Next one is Legacy of You. That's my other solo. I was trying to pick which one of these solo games between Final Girl and Legacy of You. I didn't want to put too many up there, but Legacy of You was a ton of fun. I'm really having a fun time playing it. I think I've got 5 plays in right now. Each time you play, the game changes a little bit. It will give a little bit harder if you win. If you win again the next time, then it gets even harder the next time. So you have to win 7 times for you to be considered as beating the game.
Okay.
And then there's also 7 losses. So if you lose on your first one, something's going to happen to make it a little bit easier for you next time. Okay. So that maybe give you a chance, give you a fighting chance. So let's see. Then I've got Parks. Parks is a classic tableau building, pretty simple, easy to get to the table, just cute little game that I think is a good family game. Pandemic Iberia I had on the list. Parks was ranked 152. Pandemic Iberia came out in 2016, and it's classic Pandemic, but I think the IP is more fun. It's older looking. It's back in, I think, the 1800s, and you're trying to get rid of viruses and outbreaks that are going on all over the board. And it's a cooperative game. Pandemic's like ranked top 10, I think, on BGG. At least the legacy version of it. Iberia is the best version of the game. So if you're going to go for a Pandemic game, I say get Iberia. That's the best one. Next one I've got is Champions of Midgard. This is a worker placement, dice chucking, Viking game where you're putting your workers out there. You're getting some Vikings to take and put on a boat and go and fight some sea monsters, or you go fight a troll, or you fight some draugrs. And when you fight these things, then they give you gold, and then you can use the gold to buy more things, to go get more guys and get another boat and go fight more monsters and get more glory. And whoever has the most glory at the end of the game wins. And it's got another cool mechanism with these blame tokens where you can blame somebody for not fighting the troll. If you fight the troll, you get to deliver a blame token to someone else, and you get to get rid of one of your own blame tokens. It's got a spot where you can become the first player and get a swordsman. So if you're not the first player, then you're not going to get the best pick each time, and that kind of drags down, and you really need to get the first player token. There's a spot to get an extra worker. Just a classic worker placement game for anyone that's looking for a starter worker placement game that's not too complex. I would say start with this one. It's ranked 148. It's a lot of fun. It's one of the first games I played when getting into board games. It's a good entry-level game. Next, I've got Dice Throne. Dice Throne is just tons of fun if you like chucking dice. It's Battle Yahtzee. It's Battle Yahtzee. One person picks one character. They come in these really easy trays where there's no setup to the game whatsoever. I grab a tray, you grab a tray, you want to be this guy, I want to be this guy. They've got different versions of the game. There's an X-Men version of the game, or the classic version where you can be like an Ent or a Viking or some moon goddess or whatever, different types of players, and they each have different abilities. But basically you're just rolling dice, and if you get a small straight or a big straight, it does better abilities, and you're doing more damage against the other person. And it's just one of those fun, easy, light filler games. Great game. Star Wars X-Wing.
It's an old one.
Yeah, it's the first one came out in 2012. The second edition, which is better than the first edition, came out in 2018. Super fun game, super fun. But if you get into this game, there's so many ships. You're going to be spending a lot of money because every single ship costs money to get these different model ships, and it just adds up. But even the core set is fun on its own. If you get just the one X-Wing with the 2 TIE fighters and you give the game a try, it's fun. It's fun trying to fly this little spaceship around and shoot the other guy, and it's very thematic, and it's one of the top games on my list as far as like that feel-good feeling when you're playing. You're standing up at the table and you're measuring out. If you don't fly well, your own formation of people, then you're going to get jammed up and you're going to screw up your formation, and then you're going to lose all your guys. So it's tricky. It takes skill. It's one of those games where the more you play, the better skill you get at flying, and the more fun that is to play against other people once you get your skill level up. Hive came out in 2001. That's 309. It's got a 7.3 rating. But one of my favorite games growing up is chess, and this is bug chess. That's the best way to describe it. It's bug chess. You have these little domino tiles that are out there with little bugs on them, and you're trying to surround the queen bee. You surround the queen bee, you win, and each bug does something a little different. The ant can move anywhere around. There's one of the bugs can climb on top. The beetle can climb on top. The spider can only move 3. There's the grasshopper can jump across. So each one has its own movement, abstract mechanics, but they all fit in a little bag, so you can take it anywhere. It's a great travel game. Throw it in your suitcase, bring it with you somewhere. That's a lot of fun, and it's thinky like chess. There's even a guy that wrote a book, Hive Strategy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so there's like a million chess books out there. Well, there's already some Hive. Evolution Climate. Evolution is just a fun game. You're playing a different species. You've got cards. You can change your species from being an herbivore to a carnivore, and you can start eating other species at the table. It's ranked 462. You evolve, and it's just fight to survive and get the most food. Whoever has the most food at the end of the game wins. Firefly the game. That's my other sandbox game. I've got another video that is the 10th anniversary Collector's Edition of the Firefly game. I go through the entire rules and every single expansion. That's just a ton of fun. If you've got a few hours and you want this open sandbox, you get to be the captain of your own Firefly ship. You get to pick your crew. You fly around to different planets and you find your crew and you add some crew, you get rid of other crew, you get some items, you upgrade your ship, you pick up supplies, you do missions, you make money, you just try to find a crew, find a job, keep flying. One of my favorite TV shows of all time.
Good show.
And great game to go with
Great
it.
IP.
The last one I've got is Thunder Road Vendetta, came out last year. It's got an 8.0 rating, it's ranked 409, and it's just fun. It's Mad Max the board game. If you're a fan of the movies Mad Max, you take Mad Max and you put it into a board game. That's what you got. You got 3 cars, small, medium, large, and a helicopter, and you're just shooting the other people's cars. You're rolling dice. You're trying to knock people off the board. You're trying to blow up their car, and the first person to get to the end wins. So it's a race to the end. You're blowing up all the other people's cars. A lot of fun.
1.
Down to our number 1.
Down to the number 1. All right, who goes
All right,
first?
Let's roll and see. 7.
All right. Come on, 20. No, a 6.
6.
Just
Oh,
barely. You go first.
just missed
Go
it.
for
All right. This is my Dudes on a Map pick. Favorite kind of game I've got. War, battle type game. Game that we've played together before.
I know what this
One of
is.
my absolute favorite games of all time. You play as gods in ancient Egypt, and it's an area control war. It's Kemet, blood, and sand. A giant scorpion on the front of the box. This was a 2021 game. The original game, which was just Kemet, I think was 2012. I'm not sure. Yeah, it was 2012. Matago Games. They also made the games Cyclades or Cyclades. Innis. Excellent game. It's ranked 303. The original was ranked 171, and this is the 2.0, so it replaces the original. So I would really just say this is ranked 171. It's rated 8.0. It's a 2 to 5 player game, best with 4. Medium complexity, 3.19. Action selection, you've got your god powers, you've got pyramids that you're building. You build up your pyramids. The higher your pyramid of whatever color it is, the more power tiles that you have available to you to upgrade and make your god and your troops more powerful and more asymmetric, because all the god power tiles are different. And you've got, there's blue ones and white ones and red ones, and depending on what color, I think the red are more aggressive and the blue are more defensive and the white are more economy, and you can get more prayer points, and more prayer points mean that you can do more things and you have more action selection available to you. So it's got an action selection mechanic. You're moving troops around on a map. You've got monsters that you can get to come battle with you. You're trying to control certain areas of the game. If you control these areas on the board, then you get victory points for those. The first person to get to 9 victory points wins. Some of the victory points aren't permanent though, they're just temporary. So if you control this one area, you might have a temporary victory point, but if someone else comes and takes it from you, then they take that victory point from you and it goes to them. It's got a little bit of the crabs in a bucket, where you're pulling you pull the leader down. So if you've got a 4-player game and you see one person's going ahead, the other 3 people are going to be ganging up on that one person that's ahead. So it's a tooth and nail. I think the last time we played, I think I was in the back. I was losing, and then I came up and ended up winning the game halfway through out of nowhere, which is something really cool. It's so fun when things like that happen. There is a new Kemet, a new edition called the Rise of the Gods expansion, and it comes with a Gods mode where you actually have your god now is one of the miniatures that you can put out on the board, and he has his own special powers. I backed this. I'm excited about getting it. I'll do a video on it when I get it, and it makes it a 1 to 6 player game. This is 2 to 5. It'll have a 6th player expansion, and it will have a solo mode. Almost 7,000 backers, 1.1 million euro. So it was pretty heavily backed. It'll come with more power tiles. There'll be amber and amethyst power tiles, so like a gold color and a purple color. So some more tiles out there. 6-player expansion. There's also going to be a team mode, so you can play 2-on-2 or 2-on-3 different team mode. Really cool.
What I like about this game is when you're playing it, you kind of feel like you're personalizing the game as you're playing it. Like with the way that different people purchase different powers, each game the factions become their own unique thing. So it just feels like there's going to be a lot of variety to it, and each game is a unique experience. It is fun.
Yeah, I can't wait to get it back to the table.
Yeah, very good.
All right. What's your number one?
My number one is Gügöng, if I pronounce it correctly. So, Gügöng, it is ranked 436 on BoardGameGeek. Average rating is a 7.4. It plays 1 to 5 players, and the weight is 3.07. It's just a fun game. I find every time I play it, I'm happy to play it. Played this the other day. I set it up and played a couple of solitaire modes with it. As soon as I finished one, I just reset it and played it again. And played through it like 3 or 4 times in a row. I mean, not all in one sitting, of course, but I left it up, came back to it several times.
How long did it take you to play?
I just loved it. You know, playing it solo, you can do it about 45 minutes. It says on the box this is about a 90-minute game. I would say that's about right. Somewhere between 1 to 2 hours is going to be about right. What's fun about it is it's got a board that has different sections to it. One section is traveling. Another section is boats, which is like kind of a research upgrade area. There's another spot where you can get jade. Another area where you can help build a great wall. And basically it's just like these little mini games that you're investing in, actions that you can take. And each of them give you opportunities to get points in different ways. So every time you play, you can't do everything. You feel like you have different things you can try. This time, I'm going to try investing in jade and see if I can win doing that. Or next time, I'm going to try and invest in the Great Wall and see if I can win that way. There's just different ways of getting points, and so you can build different types of engines as you play. What you do is you have these little cards. You have a deck of cards that have numbers on them. They represent gifts that you're going to give to the Emperor. And so what you do is you look on the map and you have to replace one of your cards with a card that's lower. So if there's a 4 on the map and I have a 6, I can swap them out and I put it face down into my discard pile in order to take that action. So you have to play cards that are higher than what's on the table. And then it loops back around. There's a 1 card that can switch on a 9 card, basically. So it kind of goes around the whole way through. So on your turn, you look at what you have and you decide which action spaces you can do. Now, if all of your cards are not going to work, you can, as a free action, just swap cards, but you don't get to do the action of the card. Or you can spend servants in order to power up and take an action that you don't have the right numbers for, but you want to avoid doing that. So a lot of times you're trying to be opportunistic. You have an idea, a long-term strategy that you're aiming for, but you're trying to be tactical. You're trying to each and every turn make the best of the moves available to you. So it allows you to interact with other people. Sometimes people will take an action. So like with a worker placement game, they block a space so you can't use it. This functionally, if somebody else swaps a card, they're going to swap it with a higher number. So they haven't blocked it for you. They've just technically made it a little more expensive for you. And so you decide whether or not it's still worth it to you or not. And I really love how that interacts. And the other interesting thing about this game is one of the zones on the board is taking your ambassador of sorts and sending them up to greet the Emperor. By the end of the game, you need to get your envoy up to the Emperor's office by the end of the game. If you don't do that, you automatically lose. You get 0 points. So you could work really hard in all these areas, but you neglect that one piece, you don't get your envoy up to the top, and you're out of the running. So it does create this tension, because usually at the end of the game, it's the action that you don't want to be investing a whole lot in. You want to compete with people in other areas, but you want to get forward just enough that once you see that somebody's about to trigger the end game, you're thinking, I really need to get my envoy up there, and it creates this little tension, this kind of panicky moment that's really satisfying.
A little race at the end.
It's a race at the end, and it adds just enough tension that it makes the game interesting. Love this game. Just a lot of fun.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
How come every single one of your games you have the back of the box is upside down from the front of the box? I didn't know if you were planning it that way, because every time you put
back of the box,
it's so you can flip it like that.
So I can flip it
so you
over
can
like
flip
that.
it and then
there
it's
we
right.
Go.
Okay.
There is an expansion to this. It's hard to find. It's out of print. I do have it. I like it, but it's a wonderful game. Love it.
All right. So of all the games that you've got up here right now, which one do you think would be the one you would want to teach me? Which one would you be most excited for me to play?
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Would it be your number one?
I would say Gügöng. Knowing what you like, I think you'd really like Gügöng. Kind of depends what mood you're in.
Mine, I'm excited to show you, is the one that was lowest ranked, which is Kelp. Man, I'm so blown away. When I played it, we've played it a ton already. And it is like the strategic, the thinking behind it, the way the shark works, the way the octopus works, the amount of asymmetry. I can't think of another game that's more asymmetric than this, and it's so thematic. You feel like you're a shark going on a hunt, and you feel like you're the smart octopus that's just got to outwit the shark. And it's so thematic, and it's so much fun to play. So we'll have to plan a day where I come over and we'll do both of them. All right, well, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what your favorite games are. Let us know what you think, whose list was better. You like Kevin's list? You like my list? Let us know who wins, and we'll see. Thanks for coming over.
Thank you very much for having me.